All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is Riverside County Innovation Month, and this is the Riverside Regional Pitch Competition. We are going to just give you a little quick overview about what's been happening in our region in terms of our growing tech ecosystem. So for those of you that may not be from the region or just not be that familiar with the tech scene that we're all building here, obviously we've got 6 amazing startups that are from this region that are gonna be pitching today, but we also have a lot of great early success stories for the ecosystem. We've been in Inc. magazine as one of the top places to start a startup in the country, and some other great press hits. What we've done over the last 5 years with UCR, we have a group there called the Office of Technology Partnerships, and we're focused on building a tech ecosystem. That's also the group that does our tech licensing, our IP licensing to startups and others. And then we also have a corporate partnerships group within that group. But the main thing we're talking about today is entrepreneurship and startups. So we've built quite an infrastructure to support startups over the last 5 years. And that includes the biggest and best thing we've done is we've recruited a team of 15 entrepreneurs in residence who are amazing. Former entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, ex-C-level executives, some former venture capitalists, et cetera, to help our startups grow, scale, and raise capital. And then we also have a bunch of amazing physical assets on the ground, which we'll talk about in a second. Jennifer will get to, which is our Excite incubator in downtown Riverside, as well as our new wet lab incubator we just opened on the UCR campus. So the program that I lead is called EPIC SBDC, and that stands for Small Business Development Center. Basically, we're kind of the mentor, I guess, piece of the puzzle. So we have the physical spaces that we're going to talk about in a second, but the mentors that help the startups are the key to this effort that we have. In addition to mentoring the startups and helping them grow, we also help them find C-level talent and other folks to join their startups once they start growing. And we've helped the startups raise about $30 million in capital. That's angel funding, venture funding, and also SBIR and grant funding over the last since 2018, so 3 years. And Jennifer, you want to unmute and talk about Excite since you manage that?
Sure. So Excite is an incubator that's created by a partnership with the Riverside County, the city of Riverside, and UC Riverside that really showcases the region's commitment to support entrepreneurs and grow local startups. It provides a combination of incubator space and commercialization assistance that's delivered by EPIC SBDC, which you just heard about, which includes workshops, events, mentorship, and access to capital.
This is just a few of the success stories that we've had over the last few years. So as I mentioned, the number I quoted earlier was the number of 30 million was for EPIC SBDC, but the OTP program that I mentioned earlier across all the different things we do, 48 million in capital raised, and about 400 jobs created and supported. So 29 companies that have been in or graduated from the incubators, and there's some logos there. And actually, a couple of the startups pitching today, FarmSense graduated from the Excite incubator. So pretty awesome stuff happening in our region, but enough of that. Let's go to the next slide and get rolling here. We want to thank the sponsors of this pitch event, and that is the awesome city of Riverside, which has contributed $2,500 for first place. And then thanks also to the Excite board and to Excite for their sponsoring second place, $500. So that's a little taste of something exciting. For the finals, just so you know, the top 6 startups are going to be going to the finals, which will be on the 28th, and there will be 10,000 for first place. What is it? 5,000 second and 3,500 third, I think, is where we're up to now. It may go a little higher. We're still bringing in sponsorships for the finals event, but that's going to be somewhere around 10K for the winner. But today, the winner is going to get $2,500. So hopefully that'll be a little pocket change to help your startup out, and maybe do some user acquisition or something else or whatever you need to do to help yourself grow. Now we want to take a couple minutes to introduce our esteemed judges. And if you can unmute and just give us a quick little background, about yourselves, that would be great. Let's start with our good friend, Gloria. Gloria, can you unmute and just say hi?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm really happy to be here. This is my first trial as a judge. and professor of economics at the UC Riverside, and also the associate dean for the social sciences. And I've been investing in the community for the last 2 or 3 years, and I look forward to the pitches.
I'm Tom Stone. I'm the CEO of SensoryGen, and the good news there is SensoryGen just recently closed 1.5 million in our seed round. So that will let us proceed on and really try to push our natural insect repellent. We also signed a licensing agreement with a marketing company who will be responsible for bringing it to market, hopefully next year. So there'll be lots of more news about that. But I have have an engineering degree in nuclear engineering of all things. Spent a lot of time in embedded hardware and software, and then got my MBA from UCLA. Engineering degree was from UC San Diego. Wonderful place. And then MBA from UCLA at the Anderson School in '96. And I started my first company in 2000. And SensoryGen's my fourth startup.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And Chris Cook, can you unmute and give us a quick intro?
Sure. First, Scott, hey, good job on this. As a lifelong Riverside resident, I love this city, and I'm super proud to be proud of this. Thank you for putting this on. I know you guys put in a lot of work. So yeah, I'll be short and sweet. I scaled an engineering business. We built large fiber networks for AT&T, Google, Verizon, and such mobile companies called CHC Consulting. I sold my company at December of 17, stayed for about a year. You know, I did. It was weird having a boss right after being an entrepreneur for my whole career. So I left after a year, and I've been just doing nothing right for about 2 years, getting reacquainted with my family, taking my kids to school, doing fun things like that I missed out on. And now literally just yesterday, I started my next thing. I'm now the CEO of Hangar 24 Craft Brewing. It's based out of Redlands. So I mean, much smaller venture than what I'm used to. But day one was fantastic. They had literally drinking beers during their meeting, which is awesome. So
we'll look forward to you now that you're CEO of bringing Hangar 24 to Riverside. We hope that happens in the very near future, because we could use another amazing brew pub here. That would be great. So all right,
one
cool.
of our big goals for the next year. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks judges for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time. And let's go to the next slide. So this is the pitch order. We're going to start out with FarmSense, then go on down. You can read that for yourselves, but we'll have 5 teams pitching. I think I said 6 earlier. Sorry about that. That was to the finals. And 5 teams pitching. And then what we'll do is we'll have a break and we will have judges deliberate. We'll come back, announce a winner. So without further ado, let's start off with FarmSense, and Jennifer will be doing the time.
So good afternoon all. Thank you for the opportunity. We are FarmSense. Let me tell you the problem we're trying to solve. Insect pests are a huge problem. Let me give you one example. For almonds, which we love here in California, there's a nasty bug called the navel orange worm. It's a moth, and it causes about $1,700 of damage per acre per year for almonds. To put that into context, we have 1.4 million almond acres here in California. So if you extrapolate across all crops and all insects, you're looking at a $200 billion a year plus problem. Insect management today, unfortunately, is completely broken. The way it typically works is growers put traps in the field, like this yellow sticky trap. Every 2 weeks, they retrieve them back to the lab. They manually count them, manually put them into a spreadsheet, run a model, and based upon that model, make some decision about a go, no go for an intervention, like a broadcast spray. But the problem with this is it's inaccurate. A lot of bugs look the same, basically. They're confused. It's very costly. And the cost is mostly the human labor to walk into the field, retrieve the traps, and manually count, of course. And a real problem is the long time lag. Between the time an insect arrives in the field and the time it's in your spreadsheet model might be 2 weeks. And by then a small problem has already gotten out of hand. FarmSense has the solution. We make smart traps that you place in the field. They attract the insects, and when the insects arrive, we classify them down to the sex and species level. We can do this because we have very, very clever machine learning algorithms, and we have these algorithms in part because we have more data, digital data in this space than the rest of the world combined. And of course, in machine learning, more data is the winner every time. So the user experience is very familiar for the grower. They go to their laptop or their iPhone, and they can look at the insect density in the field in real time and plan the optimal intervention. So the value proposition for the grower is manifest and multifold, but we can save them some money in labor costs, not have to drive to the field backwards and forwards every 2 weeks. But more importantly, we're going to save them a lot of money on pesticides. Pesticides are both expensive chemicals in themselves and expensive in the labor to actually apply them. And of course, we also can save them in crop loss. So we're looking at saving the grower over $100 per acre per year. And again, to put that into context, California has about 2 million acres of nuts just here in California alone. There are additional side effects of our business model, which are all good for the environment. We're a very green company. So in a lucrative space, you might imagine, we have competition, and we do have some, but we have technical advantages, which means that we really kind of leave them in the dust. Our competitors can count insects, but can't tell you which insect it is. And that really matters. We know which insect it is. We can handle all insects, some tiny little insects, the big insects. We're robust to rain and wind and heat. We can optimize our information for limited bandwidth. And we can detect multiple species with a single trap, as opposed to our competitors. So we got here today because we have a really amazing team. We have to have experts in engineering. That's our colleague, Dr. Slanda Singh, my co-founder. He makes these physical hardware devices. The data is passed on to me. I'm an expert in machine learning. I can tease out from the signal which kind of bug it is. Leslie, who some of you know, wears 2 hats for us. First of all, she is an entomologist with many years of experience, but in recent decades, she's been a serial entrepreneur in the ag tech and biotech space. And then finally, Cliff is very important to us. He has over 40 years of experience advising growers on insects, basically in the field every day. He really understands these bugs, and he understands the culture of the growers and how they interact with data. We got here through a combination of academic funding, which stopped a few years ago.
1 minute remaining.
And then more recently been funded by SBIRs and some research contracts. So we have a detailed roadmap to expand our company. Right now we're doing field trials in 5 continents, multiple countries around the world. And we plan to be fully commercial with a product launch in the second quarter of 2022. At this point, I'm done. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, judges. So does anyone want to start out with a question for FarmSense?
Yeah, I don't understand how this thing happens. Does it happen in real time? I mean, you get the insect and immediately the farmer knows what kind of insect is it, and then he's ready to deploy certain pesticides. Give us the timeline, how the product works.
Surely. The sensor collects data in real time. Normally push the data to the cloud twice a day, but for some growers, some crops, it can be even more frequent than that. And the trick is that the farmer has many interventions possible, mating disruption, pesticides, mechanical barriers, many choices, but that choice depends upon what insects you have in the field and some external factors. And the real lack of information he has now is what insects are in the field. He might detect them 2 weeks after they begin to invade, and by then they've already caused a problem. So the timeless information and the rich spatial density of the information is really a huge game changer for these growers.
Thank you.
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, I actually have 2. The first one is, what do you have some sense of the density, the trap density that growers will need to implement on their fields to get a reasonable amount of data? Like how many traps per acre or per square mile or something like that?
No, that's a great question. It depends upon the crop to some extent. Of course, different crops have different requirements. But in many cases, our traps are basically designed to resemble traps people have used for 40 years and so forth. So in most cases, we tell the grower, go to the same pole you've used for the last 10 years, hang our trap on that pole, not a mechanical trap. So it really fits into the schema very, very nicely. So, but to answer your question, is it might be 2 traps per acre would be typical for many nuts. For rich ornamental things like that are attacked by fruit flies, it could be even denser. For things like corn and row crops, it would be less dense. But mostly we're using existing knowledge. We're not reinventing that knowledge. That knowledge already exists.
Okay. And then the second is, you didn't mention any, have you done a lot of work in terms of cost? Do you have some sense of what the devices will cost, what the and you know, as compared to the manual service? I mean, how there were some quick numbers that you ran by there, but maybe if you could revisit those and just re-emphasize the cost savings.
Surely. Our devices cost a few years ago in the hundreds of dollars. Someone's done an amazing job getting the price down. We're kind of at the $70 a unit price point. When we scale up manufacturing in China, it's going to get closer to $40. If you think about it, the labor for one guy to drive a truck and put it in the field anyway is approaching that. So we're at a point of kind of diminishing returns for how cheap a device is. Of course, we don't make any money selling devices. We might even give them away free. We're making money with a subscription service for information, like Spotify and Netflix in some sense, right? That's our business model.
Do you have, so I spent 4 years on farms trying to work with growers and data. Do you have some sense of that growers will embrace the subscription model? Because to date, they've been fairly wary of a data subscription model, in my experience.
No, I totally agree. So one of our partners is the top 3 companies in the world. And they actually are kind of pushing the subscription model for other kinds of services. Actually, John Deere, which we're working with, is also independently very much into the subscription model for their information services. So growers have been kind of trained by other companies to embrace this.
Great, thank you. Perfect answer.
Thank you.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, you know what, my question was basically Tom's, and what is the market, you know, responding to this, like a kind of software as a service, you know, model?
Oh, you froze again.
But I think I got your question. So most of the growers in California work with PCAs, licensed pest advisors, and they're basically paying a person a monthly fee as a person. So paying a monthly fee for a person, paying a monthly fee for a software service is kind of similar in some sense. So I don't think there's any great barrier there, at least we haven't encountered it yet. A great barrier is how can you get into our want them today?
So Emon, can you say that your product is final or you are still working in the product?
In the MOT space, MOTs are very important for all kinds of things. We're basically done. We've tested it in 5 continents, multiple states, multiple countries. It's done. We're having to spin-offs for other kinds of bugs that behave differently. But yes, for tree nuts and citrus and stuff like that, we're done.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can sneak in one more question here before the buzzer rings. Talk about your decision to, what was the thinking behind why you're kind of launching worldwide versus, you know, launching maybe in Southern California and targeting or just California crops versus national or worldwide?
It's partially kind of a pull demand. We had people from, you know, Australia, people from Europe begging us for help. People in Poland have apples, which is a very famous crop there, and a big problem with the Lycon apple moth. So it's more of a kind of a pull demand. People are asking for help. We do understand that California is our backyard, and it makes sense to develop here and to launch here. But the demand is so great, we basically can't turn it down, essentially.
Okay, time's up.
You have already found revenue? Oh, I'm sorry.
We have paid trials, so we've gotten pretty large checks from these companies to do paid trials.
Pulse 360.
Yep.
You ready to roll?
I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Anand, and I am a co-founder of Pulse 360. We are a B2B software that is currently targeting financial advisors. We help them write and send clear emails in half the time that they normally do. I was in the industry and I would spend a lot of time writing up email summaries after a meeting, sometimes taking upwards of 25 minutes just because the words had to be just right for what we discussed during a meeting in a very highly regulated industry. The next morning, normally when I would show this to my boss, he would come back and say, we need to scratch this up and rewrite this. Now this, I was always doing this and led me to lots of frustration because I would spend my time and then he would spend his time rewriting my words to be able to send this out, leading us to sending an email out sometimes over a week to 2 weeks just because we get backlogged. When I looked at this as an issue, I recognized the problem is that business writing is very complex We may do this day in, day out, but when you're sending it to your end clients, your image matters. So the business writing has to be very short, has to be clear, and also has to be understandable. Formatting has to be right. You can't keep using jargons, has to be compliant, especially if you're in compliance industry. This is a big challenge for 15 or 18 million professionals around the world. Now, at least 15 times a week, they're sending out emails to their clients and they're writing them from scratch, and then they're having being rewritten or the message is not going through. So we decided, let's stop all the productivity loss and all the frustrations that happen just because there's also, you know, people like me who English is not the first language, and there's many people like us out there. We may not word the same things, right? That was the problem with my advisor and my boss. I was educated all over the world, so I write differently. And I looked at the situation. I said, look, let's just reimagine how emails are written out by all professionals. 80% of the time I found in our business, we were writing the same things over to different clients with just some numbers changing over here and there. So we devised a way where you can add a language in once, the boss can be happy, and then what we need to do is next time when we want to send an email, we pick that note that we want to send out, and then we merge it into an email and fill in the dynamic field where the values do change, which are normally numbers. Now, using pre-written, well-formatted sentences is already saving advisors at least 6 hours a week, if not more. And we have launched in beta last year, and we have about 80 advisors and about 3,000 MRR. And now the advisors themselves are actually pushing their larger firms to have a look at our software. For example, this as an example, Richard sent an email out to advisor group with 11,000 advisors there. From a team perspective, you have a little bit of my background. I have 20 years of experience in this, and I have done everything from coffee to compliance in the financial advisory world. Jamie has been my co-founder. He's out of England, and he has done sports betting software where, you know, millions of transactions are happening. Alejandro and Damian are our cloud leads so that we can address the enterprise scale needs and reliability needs.
1 minute remaining.
Okay. We are first to market with an all-in-one templating tool. A couple of ideas may come across, Grammarly or Text Expander. Grammarly is just a grammar checker, and Text Expander kind of does a little bit of this expansion of this, but it's very complex and not very customizable. Our business model is a straight B2B SaaS with the 3 different plans plus an enterprise. And then from a TAM perspective, when we go over to the larger professionals, we're looking at a $45 billion market. Initially, we're going after financial advisors, which is the SOM. And our growth channel is 2. One is with deep integrations, and the other one is inbound pipeline. Our deep integrations with Redtail being the largest CRM provider in our field, and Wealthbox and Salesforce. We're raising $5 million, we're raising $750,000 at a $5 million pre, and we have about 275 committed. From an advisor's perspective, they're saving at least 50% time. Compliance is happy. We're enterprise ready, and the whole system is very actionable, repeatable, and scalable. And from an investor perspective, it's very sticky because the notes are in there, led by an experienced team. We're going to add more modules and automations onto each note. And we have adjacent market in the professional side. And from an exit perspective, we likely are looking at probably getting acquired by one of the firms.
All right, great. Thank you. Great pitch. And let's go to the judges. Which judge has the first question?
I've got a quick question. What stage are your integrations at with Salesforce and Redtail and the others you mentioned?
We have already completed deep integrations with those. So we're actually done with all 3 of those. We're now moving on to Riskalyze. And just so you know, that what I mean by deep integration is, and let me just go back to the send note here. Hang on. Sorry, this is moving a little slow. For example, right here at our next meeting, what we're doing is we can automatically create a task that will remind you, before the next meeting, hey, you need to relook at this. So that's the level of deep integration we have built.
I have a question about the competition.
Yes.
You had a chart there. Is there any in-house competition from some of the big firms? I mean, they must realize that this time sink exists, and are you aware of any in-house kind of projects or development that's going on by some of the big firms to address this need in-house, where it's for a large group of in-house analysts rather than kind of for a subscription model?
Yes. So it may come as a surprise, but no, none of these firms, and these are some of the largest firms, have any solution. And I have 20 years of experience. I was doing this manually. I actually coded this in Excel in 2012 myself for a small practice in Riverside. The reason why there's nothing existing is because people think that everybody's practices are different and every client is different. How in the world can you templatize that? Well, when you have experience like me and recognize that 80% of the time we're writing the same things just to different clients, there is a way, and that's the way we.
Doesn't Salesforce have something like this for their sales teams?
So what they generally do is the large templates that you can just mass email 1,000, right, clients, but not one-on-one.
Okay.
From your perspective, I mean, I think it sounds like a labor intensive, because even if you are focusing in financial advisors, it's not the same to talk to Ameriprise Financial versus Ameritas, because they sell different products, they have different way to contact clients. So how can you have a template that serves the majority of the financial advisors?
So the idea is that the advisor and the team would add their own language into the system once, and now it's available for them to continuously use over and over and over. So if they're using different products, they just enter their details in, and that's it.
And when you have the product to them, then do you have an open window for the advisor to come to you and to ask you anytime to review the template or to modify? How do you do the relation with the customer?
They once they have this, they are managing their own notes. They're building their own templates. They're customizing this themselves. They can edit, delete all of that themselves. We naturally are there to help support, but we don't know their products. We just know overall, hey, their financial planning, life insurance, what have you, and we kind of guide them. So they're all the 80 beta advisors are flying through the system, saving over 50% of their time from what they used to do.
Maybe the last question. Go back to the partners, the deep integration chart.
Oops, sorry, I'm trying to find.
That's okay. While you get there, I'll ask the question. There you go. So these are some pretty big firms, right?
Yes.
So I have you. What has been their response? Have you contacted each of these firms? You're trying to raise $750,000. It seems like you could get one of these guys to go in for $500K and close out your round in with a little bit of Scott's help in about 10 minutes. So what has the response been when you contact them?
Scott has been busy. No, I'm kidding. No, the response from all of them has been, we're on due diligence with each one of these that you're seeing already. However, with these firms, due diligence takes time. We have to get SOC 2 certifications. We're ready from our perspective, but there's just a matter of money and time to spend for the certification. Now, from an investment perspective from these firms, I have considered that the challenge is for me, if I go take money from one firm, then I may not be able to address it for the other firms, because they all of a sudden now will have a say in what we can and cannot do. And this can become a competitive advantage. So I have not approached them for that particular reason.
That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you, judges, for the questions. And let's go to our next startup, which is Terra City Farms.
Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for having me. Great job with the other presentations. My name is Grandison Crawford, and I'm a founder of Terra City Farms, which is a for-profit business transforming communities through local fresh food production. We're solving systemic food inequality in underserved neighborhoods. The cost of food inequality is unsustainable. 530 billion lost in employer revenue due to poor health in the US, 190 billion in US healthcare costs associated with obesity and healthcare related costs, 60 billion in health costs related to sedentary lifestyles due to a lack of outdoor spaces, and 23.5 million people live in areas that are more than a mile away from fresh food options. Our solution is to localize fresh food production, also to improve health and reduce health-related costs, develop farm and park space, and contribute to the training and creation of jobs as farm operators. Our technology is simple and brings fresh food and communities together. We grow fresh produce out of 40-foot shipping container farms. To give you an idea of the growth and productivity and efficiency of a shipping container farm, a 40-foot container equals 3,500 square feet of grow space. It also reduces the water use by 95% and grows high quality, high volume fresh produce in that shipping container. It's also simple to install. You just place on a plot of land, and it's simple to train anyone how to use it without prior agricultural experience. That being said, our model will disrupt current fresh food production in underserved neighborhoods. One, we will produce fresh ingredients for local distribution directly to the consumer, as well as to our health vending machines. Also, because of our proximity from the production of food to the consumers, we have a stronger supply chain, with traditional farms typically needing 1,500 miles before they actually get to a shelf at all. In addition to selling directly to consumer, we will have a health vending machine, and we will place them strategically in places that are both high traffic and also represent our underlying demographic. In metro stations or public transportation, primarily it's low income and people in our underserved communities using them. Also in hospitals, oftentimes frontline workers, especially during these pandemic times, we've seen don't have time to take breaks. So a quick, healthy option in their workspace would help them greatly with energy and staying healthy in order to save lives. College campuses are also a target for our vending program, because of the fact that colleges actually don't get put on the census as food deserts, even though colleges typically are more than a mile away from any fresh food options. Our markets are emerging and expanding in fresh food industry. As you can see, the vertical farming market in 2018 was $2 billion, and it's projected to go up to $12 billion in 2026. Additionally, the global vending market is $26 billion, according to Bloomberg. That being said, we are first to market for the demographic in which we are serving and has been constantly overlooked. But if you look at our competitive analysis, we have two columns vertically organized. On the left side, we have other vertical farming companies as an example of the success and the technology already being established. On our right side, we have food retail companies. Farmer's Fridge in particular is a booming health vending company out of the Midwest. Our partners see the value in what we bring through Excite, also with our supplier, GrowPod Solutions, and we've been in talks with the city of Riverside as well as the county of Riverside. Our Terra City team is passionate about leading innovation for healthy change. I personally graduated from Chico State with a bachelor's in science, and I also know firsthand, growing up in East Oakland, the problems with not having access to fresh food and fresh produce in your neighborhoods. Corey has extensive years of experience in managing and operations in the food and service industry, and Lauren Haas is going to be our nutritional expert, as well as design the program for our vending salad program. Our advisors believe in our company and bring their startup experience to the team. Alexandra Orozco has 15 years leading, growing, sustainable focused life science startup companies in Northern and Latin America. And Carolina Rojas promotes the development of small business and scalable startups in the Inland Empire. That brings us to our last slide. So to recap, Terra City Farms is an integrated system of two proven technologies in markets that are not only doing well now, but have been shown that they will be expanding in the near future exponentially. The main ways that we plan to make our revenue is through retail crops, salad sales, ad revenue from those vending machines, as well as event and land use, including farmers markets, but not limited to that. Our ask is for $10 million. And what that will do is provide the placement of 12 shipping container farms over the next 4 years, which will simultaneously supply 40 vending machines in our prime and target locations, as mentioned before. And by year 4, we're looking to make 3.8 million a year through this company. And with that being said, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you listening, and let's grow healthy communities together.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. And judges, any questions for Terra City Farms?
So when are you planning to install these containers? I mean, they must be close to the place that you want to send the food to. Where are they located? Are they located somewhere now, or is a plan to locate?
The plan is to locate them in or around the communities we plan to service. So there's a lot of empty and unused lots that actually have tax benefits from allowing an agricultural company to be on their land. So it benefits both the landowner who hasn't found use out of their land, as well as us for providing space for us to grow efficiently.
So what it would be the cost of one container, including all these rent of the land, operations, people, transportation? Do you have any sense?
Yeah, we do. So what we plan to do is a traditional Terra City farm would be 3 40-foot shipping containers. And with the labor costs and implementation and the water electricity needs, it would be about $1.2 million per farm. That cost would go down because of the fact that additional salaries on from the beginning would not be added to additional placements of farms.
How much is if you compared your 3 containers versus another, how much normal farmland would 1.2 million buy? Like, is it equitable?
That I'm actually not sure about.
That's a tough question. All right, so let me ask a couple questions. So the vending machines, that's interesting. What's the deployment plan there, and how do you plan to acquire that space?
Well, we've actually had conversations with the design directors of Metro, and they are looking for amenities to place in various stations as a test to see how well they do and to increase the attractiveness to their consumer base. What we plan to do to get the vending machines inside of college campuses is we plan on working with various majors and working in the food science programs, as well as the business majors, in order to create a program that provides additional funds through grants for those colleges in order to have our businesses there and help the students as well.
Interesting. Okay, last one for me real quick. Shelf life on the salads.
The shelf life in our mason jars is 3 to 5 days. We will actually be taking them out in the 3-day period and potentially selling them to like second-party buyers of food that's potentially on its way out and things like that.
Got it. So you'll definitely have some maintenance, some restocking of the vending machine.
Yeah. Luckily, the technology for the vending machine is very good. We are able to actually see what's going on minute to minute via our phones on the produce inside the vending machines.
Okay, so how much money have you raised thus far?
We are in the early phases. We're looking for seed funding for it. So
I mean, how much have you raised to date, and then how much are you looking for in your next raise? We
haven't raised anything to date.
Okay, and how much are you looking for in kind of your earliest first round?
In our earliest first round, we would like to put down one of our traditional farms, so a 1.2 raise.
Okay.
1 minute.
You haven't. Have you had any container already installed?
Actually, UCR is using one of our suppliers' containers for their food science program. and have been in the shipping container farm industry for the last 15 years.
So when you say one of your shipping container suppliers, so is somebody else building the shipping container farm module?
Yeah. So
Okay.
as I mentioned before, we are taking technologies that are already there. So GrowPod Solutions already has those
Okay.
shipping containers done, and we will be utilizing those in the areas that we are trying to transform.
Okay. So if the shipping container growing module already exists, the vending machines already exist, right? Your mason jar kind of packaging already exists. Essentially, you're a marketing company for fresh food to areas that are lacking access to that. Correct? Is that a good summary?
Yes.
Okay. So who on your team is an expert in marketing of fresh foods to that kind of a client, to not to a Whole Foods client, but to somebody who's kind of an inner city or and somebody who's not a typical Whole Foods kind of client?
Well, with Lauren Haas, she is on the nutrition side, and it would be a portion that we would have to grow because there's been such a lack of any saturation in those areas of health food.
Thanks for the questions. And again, great pitches so far from all the teams. Let's move on to our fourth startup, and that is Edge Sound Research. So why don't you guys take it away? Let us know when you're ready to go, and we'll start the clock.
Sound is everywhere. It's the first thing you experience when you wake up in the morning, and it's the most consistent stimulus you experience throughout the day. How would you like to experience sound? What if I told you that the way you're currently experiencing sound is limited because existing audio technologies haven't evolved in the past 3 decades, restricting communication abilities in an era where content is king? This makes it difficult to implement the next generation of audio solutions. And while consumers are already spending an average almost 7 hours a day consuming content, looking for that next big experience, companies are struggling to provide those experiences in audio as they've been able to do in other formats such as video. My name is Valtteri Salomäki, and I'm the CEO of Edge Sound Research. Our team, comprised of business professionals, subject matter experts, and engineers, are tackling the problem of redefining what it means to experience sound. But this all started with my co-founder, Ethan. Ethan, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I sure can. Well, you probably can't tell from the way I speak and how I am now, but I've actually been hard of hearing for mostly all my life. And much to the chagrin of my doctors, I still went into music. And even beyond that, I became a music and audio engineer. But the only way I was able to do that is by relearning, recalibrating how I was able to hear. And so I learned how to hear through touch. And while that brought me from a baseline of deficient to normal, when I showed my friends and family how to do what I was doing, it took their experiences from normal to amazing. And so I wanted to share that experience with video. And we've assembled this amazing team of experts, as well as an incredible team of advisors with years of startup experience to be able to bring the product of this technology to market. And we call it Resonex, my baby. This is the first device ever to allow you to feel and hear sound simultaneously across all frequencies, which makes music, movies, and video games the most immersive and incredible experience you've ever heard or felt. With computer inside of it, it uses computational audio and some other cool stuff to get smarter over time with over-the-air updates. So what's inside of it that makes it so badass? I'm glad you asked. The key technologies that make this possible is our number one, our patent pending technology, which allows users to both hear and feel sound in high quality. It also uses AI and machine learning models to be able to intelligently adapt to whatever surface you place it on. To adapt fully to have a consistent experience. And one of the key focuses we wanted to do was make it as easy as possible to attach it to a myriad of different surfaces, lowering the barrier to entry for this new format.
There we go. So our business model is going to start with a direct-to-consumer sales approach with an e-commerce platform launching at the end of this summer. From there, we're going to be moving into retail sales in 2023 with mass market focused products, and eventually move into licensing deals with more high barrier markets. Audio has universal application and can grow into multiple different market verticals, but we're going to be hyper-focused on the gaming industry, which is a $162 billion market. It's all driven by experience, and even the headset market alone is valued at $1.86 billion globally. Our go-to-market is a top-down approach. We want to focus on the influencers in the gaming industry. These are the performance gamers. These are your esports gamers, your Twitch streamers, and your gaming tech enthusiasts. Our first product, ResinX, will be priced between $750 and $1,500. We'll be able to drive the influence in the market with product showcasing, influencers, press releases, partnerships, and pay-per-click advertising. Now, Ethan, how's it different from our competitors?
Well, I'll tell you, because I'm in research, thank you, university, it means I've actually had the opportunity to try all of our competitors. And the conclusion that I've been able to come up with is that we're actually in a category of our own, because this represents a new shift, a new evolution of a new format of audio. Just like how we went from mono to stereo, and the format shifted from stereo to surround, we have gone from tactile to experiential. And that's a great thing, because there's been indication of a lot of capital been raised in our predecessor technology, which means that investors will likely like our technology as well.
In order to make a profitable business, we're going to focus on 3 key financial targets. The first is ensuring a gross margin above 50%. Second, increase your monthly sales by over 10%. And third, being able to acquire customers for under $200. This entire journey started in November of 2019. In the middle of us doing customer discovery to validate our technology, COVID-19 hit. We had to adapt to the times, and working all remotely, we've been able to hit every single one of our milestones and take this technology and turn it into a commercially viable product with only $30,000 of capital. This leads to our investment ask of $1.6 million in a post-money safe for a 12-month runway to be able to establish direct-to-consumer channel, reach 1 million in revenues, launch ResinX 2.0, and start the development of our very first retail-focused product.
If you don't remember anything else from this presentation, remember these 2 things. We have invented the next generation of audio, a new audio format in an industry that needs an injection of audio experiences that customers and consumers are wanting now. Companies are going to be starting to fight for their attention, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. So make a sound investment in the advancement of audio for all with Edge Sound Research.
Thank you for listening. Now I'll open up the floor to any questions.
Do you have a patent for this technology?
Our patent pending currently is in PCT filing, and we have the ability to make our utility patents in the next 18 months.
So, could you describe the experience as best you can?
Let's see here. Can you imagine what if you were to lay across like a really high fidelity speaker? Imagine like being inside of something like that, like inside of the speaker.
So imagine going to a music festival, being in the front row at that music festival, and the sound being pushed towards you. Instead of it destroying your ears and hurting with that, you're actually feeling that frequency through your body. So like those.
So do you feel? I mean, so what immediately, right? We've all been to, obviously, I have been to lots of live music venues, and been in the front, and what you feel are the lower frequencies and not so much the higher frequencies, right? So does this bring those higher frequencies also, rather than just the booming bass, basically?
That's right. Yeah. There's if you've been to the music festival with the too much bass, we have questions for your audio engineer at that one. But in most cases, though, you're actually feeling the high frequencies, but the low ones are so overbearing because they require so much energy to reproduce an air. Mm-hmm. By taking air out of the equation, you're coupling the signal directly to your body, which requires much less energy. So that means that the lower frequencies are felt at the same time as the rest of the higher frequencies. So now you can feel the higher frequencies.
Okay, right. I used to work for TIAC Corporation, and we had a Grammy for excellence in sound recording.
Very nice.
in our engineering department.
Cool.
Now on the business side, talk a little bit about the financials and getting to profitability with the customer acquisition of something like $200 or up to $200. What does your cost structure of the unit look like? And, even at $750, how are you going to make a profit?
Absolutely. So the product itself costs right now about $225 to create, all the way end to end. We're able to 3D print the entire product. That cost will go down with volume. We should be able to get it down to about $175 per unit. That being said, our price point between $750 and $1,500, the reason for that is we actually have a lot of price elasticity due to the fact that the performance gamers spend that much on CPUs and GPUs for their performance in video games. So we could actually price it above $1,200 and more, which gives us a nice margin on spending. It is a brand new technology, so we do have to spend a lot of money on the acquisition of customers due to the fact we have to educate them on this sensation, this performance. Once we do it with this, the retail side of it is with the mass market, that's where we can explode. But we first have to have the people in the gaming industry say that this is the next thing before we can introduce it and mass scale it out where the margins start growing over time. So that's where the profitability starts coming in.
Great. Yeah, that was my one question. What's the influencer acquisition strategy? I mean, is there any built networks already, or are you guys starting scratch there? How are you doing that?
Absolutely. So we have some networks into some esports scene. We had talked with the Warriors esports prior to, which as we are doing our user testing currently, we're perfecting some of the final components before we start doing testing with bigger and bigger scale esports connections we have, as well as one of the mentors we had directly tied into our company was actually the growth strategist of Tidal. And he was the person who made the acquisition deal with Jay-Z. His entire approach with Tidal versus Spotify is the same approach we're doing when it's entering into a new market where we have to focus on how you attain those influencers and then build it into the market. So he's working with us to help create the strategies.
Yeah, that sounds like a good approach there. One last thing. So I know that the esports thing, right? It's just blowing up right now. Would you say that this product gives you a competitive advantage in game?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so absolutely. So video games, everything is a millisecond game. And the better your communication ability to react to something, the more enhancement you're able to have. This technology, what allows you to do is you actually hear, when a bunch of things are happening in a game, it compresses in your ears. You don't know what's going on. You can't detect the signals behind it. Through access sensation touch, you can feel footsteps that you not only can't hear if there's gunshots, for example, in a Call of Duty game or anything tied into that. And that millisecond difference allows you to turn around and make that shot. That is one thing we're definitely going to want to test and be able to do with an esports team, because one huge thing on my checklist is to have an esports team use this technology, win a tournament. That's the biggest validation factor we can have for the performance of the technology.
I suck at games and it makes me better.
Oh, nice. Good. Well, cool. Yeah. Good job, guys. Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks for the questions.
Time's up. Good
All
job.
right. Thanks, guys. That was cool presentation, and thank you for the questions. Let's go to are we on our last presenter already? Wow. Okay, cool. Last but not least are our friends at Globe Biomedical. So Matt, just let us know when you're ready to start and we'll start the timer.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Matt Ricard, the CEO and co-founder of Globe Biomedical. Today, I'm going to tell you about our wearable eye health monitoring platform. We're seeking 1.75 million in seed capital. The problem we're targeting is glaucoma. It's the leading cause of irreversible blindness. It affects 1% of the population. That's very hard to manage. People that suffer from glaucoma, they take eye drops daily to keep their eye pressure down, which is known as intraocular pressure, or IOP. But we know that the drops eventually fail. The IOP changes by the minute. 3 months is too long to wait to get a feedback from your doctor, and this results in permanent vision loss. We're targeting patients that already are taking IOP lowering drops for glaucoma. In 2007, I joined Alcon in Orange County, and I was an engineering manager. And I got to meet these wonderful glaucoma doctors. And they said, Matt, we need a solution to IOP monitoring. So when I left Alcon and still saw there was nothing available, I focused my projects at California Baptist University, where I joined as an engineering professor, on IOP lowering technologies. And this led to the spin out of Globe Biomedical. And the solution are eyeglass frames that image the eye surface. The electronics are completely embedded into the frames. At night, the user puts the glasses on the nightstand and the image data gets pushed up to the cloud. Our proprietary machine learning algorithm processes the data, and this produces IOP trends that the doctor can look up at any time. On the right, you can see our proof of concept data that we published last year with our collaborators who are at the Mayo Clinic and Western University. So are other companies trying to do this? Of course, but we don't really see any close competition because none of them are affordable, none of them are contactless, and none of them are invisible. Our market size is like this. There's 300 million people in America. About 1/3 of them wear glasses for most of the day. And of this population, the ones that have glaucoma and would adopt the tech is still a significant amount of people. This leads to an addressable market of 280 million. We believe because of our novel technology, we can capture 200 million of this at maturity. We're currently licensing the patent from California Baptist University, which covers a wearable device that images the eye throughout the day and then calculates IOP based off of eye stretching. The revenue model is such that the optometrist would sell for retail $700 glasses with our technology. We would have charged them $370 for this. $170 approximately is our cost of goods, which has a gross margin of $200. The eye clinician makes $275 on this initial sale, but they get additional revenue as well. In a 2-year time frame, there's already existing remote monitoring codes that they can charge about approximately $2,400 in a 2-year period. We're currently using a $940,000 NSF SBIR phase 1 and phase 2, thanks in part to Riverside Excite and the SBDC. We're raising 1.75 million so that we can accomplish 3 milestones. The first one is finishing our frames development, finalized by our first initial in-depth human study, and then a clinical study of about 100 subjects by 2024, which will allow us to do our regulatory submissions. The ask is 1.75 million. With that investment, the government also gives 500,000. So the total budget for 2022 to 2024 is 2.25 million. Most of this is for engineering, mainly for software development and V&V. Our first partner is American Eyewear in Nashville, Tennessee. And our plan is to go to market with a $900 retail bundle. There's a $200 retail pair that you'll love that's got lenses in it. And then also a $700 retail price for Globe Tech, which has technology that you love. It also allows you to keep your vision, which is priceless. Our plan is to partner with American Eyewear and go to training events as well as the typical eyeglass frame shows. We expect to sell over 200,000 units by the year 2030. This leads to a net profit of nearly 40 million at maturity.
30 seconds.
So our management team includes the co-founders, Cree Jones, who successfully had a software startup company before that was acquired, Michelle Greer, our COO, who's also on the call today, as well as Josh Park, who's our biomedical engineer and principal investigator. Oh, we're also our wonderful consultants and coaching help us through the way, as well as our fantastic medical advisors. Who's going to buy us? Ophthalmic companies, yes, because they want to get into tech. Frame companies, because they want to get into wearables. Frame companies, because they need tech, and medical, because they need data. So we're excited about this life-saving technology developed right here in the Inland Empire, and I thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Great job. And team who's on the call as well. And so judges, turn it over to you for questions.
Can we get insurance to pay for these things?
So that's interesting. So I put up pretty simple, yes, long-term. Initially, these technologies struggle for insurance. The difference between us, though, and the other companies is $700. $900 is not that much to pay already for 2 pairs of eyeglass frames. But long-term, yes, our sales will go up when you get reimbursement for the frame. But there's also already those incentives for the optometrists. So they may cut down the cost of that because they're able to charge on the back end. And that reimbursement code does not need to be them. They can have their trained technicians in their optometry office do that remote sensing and charge those bills and work with the data.
Matthew, at the core of the product, what is it? Is measuring the pressure in the eye?
Correct. Yeah.
And then what is the action? I mean, so the data go to the doctor's office, and the doctor is aware that something is going on, and then, I mean, how is life-saving? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So well, first of all, they don't really know the pressure of anybody's eye, right? Because they go in for a measurement and it changes by the minute because they could have had a cup of coffee. And the measurement they have right now, they're all external and they're all okay accuracy, but not that great. So finally, with our device, they can get an idea of the actual pressure because they can average trends and all that. And the software can do that. But there's 3 things to this. The second thing that it could do is when they usually overprescribe now, they just give 3 drops and hope the pressure comes down. So what they can actually do now is say, why don't you take these drops on certain days or take this drop for this month? And they can actually look at the data and see which eye drop is actually working properly. And the third thing they can do is actually see the range. So maybe there's a patient whose their IOP changes is as an average, but it fluctuates a lot. So they can start to tease out the ones that actually have high spikes as well.
So the selling of the product is not just the person who has glaucoma, but also the doctor's office that needs to monitor what is going on with the patient. How often is this monitoring? So you have 3 clients, the person who has the glaucoma, the doctor that takes care, and the optician or the optometrist who sells the glasses. Am I right?
Correct. That's right. So what, well, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So the question is that when you go to the market, it's not just going to the optometrist office. You need to have the doctors on board.
They're all on board. Like I could text 10 of them right now. Yeah. So these eye surgeons will continue to push this, and they're going to say, they're going to tell the patient, look, I don't want to do surgery on you. Go to the optometrist and they'll buy this. So the optometry is where I think we need to, of course, spend some marketing to make sure the glaucoma surgeons are up to date and in speed.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
I just went to the glaucoma show's virtual World Glaucoma Congress, 14,000 people from around the world, and they're talking about IOP monitoring, and there's nothing to talk about. So they literally have a session where they just say, let's talk about IOP monitoring. There's nothing there yet, but when will we have it? And they're like, maybe in 10 years, but what is it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
If you could go back to the partner chart. There you go. That's one. Yeah. So have you thought about, so perfect, great job bringing in an eyewear company, obviously. Now move forward to the acquisition chart or the exit. Have you thought about bringing any of these folks in now?
Oh, yes.
Especially
Yes.
the ophthalmic companies.
Yes, we're regularly, and I ran out of time. I didn't even get to go through my summary. There's a lot of information here. Yeah, we are in some of these people we reach out to, and they're having dialogue with us. Santen actually last month reached out to us. They found us through the SBR website, and they reached out to us, and they wanted the latest update on the data. So yeah, there's a lot of energy for this. Santen is the Japanese drug company. They've already invested a lot in glaucoma, other devices, and they're looking to get into IOP monitoring.
Right. So I think the winning move for you folks is to bring one of these key strategic partners into the development or the deal or in some way, right? A partnership like that will make it so much easier to raise that other funding that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yep. And actually the Santen actually has a fund. So they're actually considering to be the VC as well as the potential acquisition.
Any last questions?
What is the stage of development? I mean, you want to go to market in 2025. So where are you? Are you 20%, 30%, 40%? Are you almost done? So what is the development process?
Well, that's a great question. So, there's actually multi stages to it. The first stage is to get any pair of glasses that look pretty normal, taking pictures, and then we can build multiple styles from there. We're actually about maybe 80% of the way through that process. So we should have wearable devices that look pretty good that recharge one style by the end of this year. The development that's heavy is from subject to subject, and that's why I have like the 2025 conservative out there, because subject to subject things can change, and you need to adjust for that in your algorithm. And that eye pressuring algorithm, although we have proof of concept, it's still going to get it to be practical and reliable and to the fidelity that these glaucoma doctors are expecting. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Could you charge more than $700 to $1,000? Sounds like this data is really valuable to these doctors.
Yes, but then the people on the call, the discussions like this, they get very upset that that's too expensive, and we're blowing. And there's communities that need this that can't afford it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Matt and team. While the judges deliberate, we want to thank our partners once again, and that's the City of Riverside for their $2,500 donation to the winner. And also I want to thank Excite, the incubator in Riverside, for their second place winner donation of $500. And now, next slide, please. To announce the second place winner, let's just choose one of the judges randomly, actually, because it shouldn't probably be me. Gloria, do you want to announce the second place winner?
Yeah, it's Glove Biomedical. We are very impressed with the product and the value, and we hope that you run quicker and we don't have to wait to 2025. We need the product much earlier.
I'm very honored. As you see those slides, there's a ton of work, as Scott knows, that's put behind it, but also amazing competition today. But, you know, we're all, I think, friends, want to help each other. So I'm just super honored to be among you guys. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Matt. And let's go to the next slide. All right. First place, let's let Chris do the honors for the announce the first place winner.
Cool,
from our
great job,
judges.
everybody on that. All very exciting stuff. It's cool that Riverside is doing this, but we chose Edge Sound as our winner today. So congratulations, guys. It was a very impressive presentation. I think it's just a cool product. I think all my kids would love to have it. So good luck, and let us know how we can help moving forward.
All right, congrats, Ed.
And send us a prototype.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just got to say thank you so much. I mean, this journey has been absolutely wild with me and Ethan. We went from him showing me his dissertation project of something I tried it the first time, and I was like, holy crap, this can be something huge. And we from there built a strong team around it. Been able to go all the way through with COVID, working hardware remotely is by far insanely difficult.
Oh my
But
God.
really thankful for all the support. And Ethan, if you have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I we mentioned this, I think, a little bit ago, but it's amazing that my disability has caused something amazing to come out of this, and so I'm super thankful that you guys think it's cool, and I'd love to give everybody here a prototype so you can all tell us how it is and how we can articulate it better. So I appreciate it, man. Great competition. Very unexpected. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. It was good. Thanks to everyone, all the startups that pitched. You all did a great job. And let's go to the next slide and wrap it on up then. So we'd love for you to connect with us. Again, my name is Scott Borowski. If you have a startup, or you are a startup or a founder and you want to get in touch, we can help you on your journey. Also, for investors out there, we are working to build a stronger investor community here in our Inland Empire and Riverside County region. So get in touch with me. We've got some very cool stuff we're going to be announcing in the next couple months that's going to be happening here in the fall for investors and startups. And Jennifer, you want to?
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Tralday. I am the Excite manager. So if you are interested in incubating your company in Riverside and wanting to grow or launch or scale your company here, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm excited to be supporting all these great startups that you saw today, and just exciting things are happening here.
All right. And thank you to everyone who pitched, all the startups and founders. And also a big thank you to our judges, Chris, Gloria, and Tom. And we will see you at the finals. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks. Take care.